Are you a day one slap bass beginner wanting to know exactly how slap bass works and how to do it for yourself? Hi, I'm Luke from Become a Bassist, and in this bass lesson, you're going to learn everything about slap bass technique that you need to start playing slap bass today. Not tomorrow, not 3 weeks from now, but today. Welcome to Become a Bassist, where it's all about insanely practical, no BS bass lessons designed to get you playing better bass, having more fun, and becoming the best bassist that you can be. And today, it is all about slap. Now, there are two basic things you need to master if you're playing slap bass. They are the slap that you do with your thumb, and the pop that you do with either your middle finger or your index finger. Yeah, so let's get right into it. First of all, let's get into the slap. Now, there are a bunch of different ways of pulling off the slap. Just about everyone's technique, it's at least a little bit different, yeah? You see players like Flea playing like this, playing across the strings. Some old school guys used to actually grab the strings with their middle and index fingers and get a slap sound like that way. There's tons of ways of doing it. But the technique I want to show you today, though, is super common, and it looks something like this. Your thumb runs parallel to the string like this, and you strike the string just like that. And then from there you can pop with the index finger or the middle finger. Yeah, just like that. Now, I like this particular technique for two reasons. Number one, it allows you to be a little bit more precise than some other techniques. And number two, if you do start to get more advanced with the slap stuff, then using this technique gives you the ability to double thumb. Yeah, now that's a whole different kettle of fish, and that's definitely not what we're getting into in this lesson. But if you do learn to slap with this particular technique, it does mean that further on down the road, you can add kind of double thumbing to your arsenal of techniques relatively easily. But using this technique, this is how the slap action works. With the thumb, you're coming down and striking the string with enough force, enough velocity to get the string to hit the fretboard and kind of bounce back up. That's where the slap sound comes from. Super percussive, sounds great. And with the thumb, it's almost like you're playing through the string. You're not aiming to kind of bounce off it, yeah? You're aiming to play through it and land on the string underneath. Yeah, see how I play, if I play the E string, my thumb goes through and kind of lands on the A string. If I play the A string, thumb goes through and lands on the D string. That's exactly what you want. Now, what you don't want is to be using kind of, massive, great big movements, right? You can actually get away with pretty small ones. Of course, if you do want to be all showy and use big movements, that's cool too, but you don't need to, right? Now, the way I like to think of the movement for slap bass isn't to move the entire arm, it's this, yeah? I think of it more like opening a doorknob. You're grabbing the doorknob, and it's almost like a twisting motion like this. You're twisting the doorknob, opening up that door just like that, except your thumb comes out a bit like this. So when it comes time to actually play, yeah, using that, like I said, not a huge movement, but enough to get that crisp, clean slap bass attack. And again, making sure you're following through the string, landing on the one underneath. That's the basic slap motion, just like that. By the way, if you want to start using the techniques from this video to play actual real-life songs, then I've got a free download of 5 beginner slap bass lines that you'd love. You can download it for free by going to the link in the description, filling out the form on that page, and I'll send it straight to you so you can start playing actual songs with everything you're learning in this video. Now, ideally when you're slapping, you're using the minimum amount of force to get a solid slap sound. The more force and the more energy you use, the quicker you'll tire out, and you'll also open yourself up to injury if you're running at 100% all the time. So really experiment and see how much velocity, how much force you can get away with. In general though, the less the better. But right now, let's talk about the second super important element of slapping, the pop. Now, before we even get into exactly how to pop, one thing that needs your attention is your hand positioning, where exactly you're slapping and you're popping. Now, this will change depending on the bass you're using, but basically you want to put your plucking hand at the place where you can relatively easily get underneath your strings for a good, solid pop. Check this out. If I decide to play kind of right here and try and get underneath the strings and pop there, my pickup's in the way. It's still possible to pop there, but it's super inconvenient, and the margin of error playing there when you're popping goes way up, and you don't want that. You want to be as accurate as possible for as much time as possible. But check this out, if I just simply move my hand a little bit closer to the neck on this bass, then my index and middle fingers have all the space in the world to get underneath those strings, slap and pop, do whatever they need to do. So if you're playing like a jazz bass with 2 single coils, then you might slap on the neck and pop like in between the neck and the first pickup. All that kind of stuff. Or you might move it back so you're kind of playing in between the neck and the neck pickup and kind of popping in between the 2 pickups right there. Just be aware though that the closer to the bridge that you go with your hand positioning, the tighter the strings are going to feel. So it may make it a little bit harder to get a good strong slap sound. For example, if I shift my hand down here, it's not quite as easy, right? Closer to the neck though, it'll feel a little bit easier to get a good solid slap sound, and of course a pop sound as well. Now, like I said, everyone is different, everyone's bass will be slightly different, so try out a few different positions and see what works for you and your bass. But now that we have the hand positioning taken care of, let's actually learn how to do the pop. Now with popping, you want to get that same kind of super percussive attack that you get from the slap. And to do that, just like I was saying, the trick is to get underneath the strings with either the index finger or the middle finger and pull them up enough so that when you let them go, they come back and smack off the fretboard and give, once again, that super solid slap sound. And like I said, either finger works. Yeah, some people prefer using the index. Some people prefer the middle. Some guys don't use the index at all and kind of like get it right out of the way like this. I can't do that. It feels weird to me. But again, you want to use the smallest movements and like the least amount of energy possible. Unless, of course, you want to put on the show and do all that kind of stuff. But once you do have like a solid slap sound and a decent pop sound, you're ready to combine them. Pop up there. All that kind of stuff. Now remember, when you are slapping, you want to stay nice and loose, nice and relaxed when you're doing this. You don't want to end up with a ton of tension because that can, really mess you up in the long run. Now when it comes to slap, the thumb will generally play the E and the A strings, and the index and middle generally play the D and the G strings. Now that's not to say you can't slap the D and the G. You're more than welcome to slap the D, and of course, you can slap the G as well. And by the same token, you can pop the E, and pop the A as well. There's like no law against it or anything. But in general, it's, thumb for E and A, index and middle for D and G. Especially if you're playing octaves, which you'll probably be doing a lot of if you're playing slap bass. Now obviously the right hand is the main event when it comes to slap, but we should also have a look at the left hand really quickly, or the fretting hand if you're a lefty. Now the biggest difference in your fretting hand when playing slap is going to come down to muting. If you want that super percussive sound, you'll want a lot of these kind of notes, notes with no specific rhythm, notes with no specific note, but a very specific rhythm, yeah? It kind of turns the bass line into a fully fledged drum groove, and that all comes down to left hand muting, because of course the right hand, it's pretty busy doing all the slapping, right? If I try and play that same bass line from before, but with zero muting, we'll get something like this. Yeah, that's not what you want. Things get really messy really fast. Yeah, it's just gross. Definitely not into that. So the left hand has to get really good at taking care of all those ringing strings and making sure that the bass line isn't just like an unholy mess. And the easiest way to do that is to kind of flatten the fingers on the fretting hand a little bit so they mute any strings that you don't want ringing out. Now I actually have a whole lesson specifically dedicated to muting that you can check out. I'll put a link in the description for you down below as well. The other thing that you'll see a ton of in slap bass is tons of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Although probably pull-offs not quite as much. The classic hammer-on thing kind of looks like this. You pop a note, hammer on, and then play the octave below with a nice solid slap. You'll see this idea come up again and again. So, you know, with slap bass, it really pays to get good at, you know, the kind of language of the music. Pays to get good at it. Now, when you have the absolute basic slap bass technique more or less under the fingers, and the sound you're making is, you know, pretty slaptastic, you've got a couple of options. You could go down the road of, you know, finding and grinding out a bunch of slap exercises and rudiments and things like that. And they're very useful, but if you are a day one beginner with slap, I'd actually recommend that you start playing some real world songs instead. Once you start playing some actual slap bass lines, you'll start to see exactly how it all fits together, all the different techniques and all that kind of thing. And if you can do the things we've been talking about in this video, then you're ready to start playing some real world songs right now. And if that sounds like you, I have the perfect thing for you. It's a free download of 5 beginner slap bass lines that you can use to jumpstart and then supercharge your slap bass playing. It even has the very first slap bass line that I learned myself in there. It comes with tab and notation, plus I give you all the places where to use your thumb versus where to pop, where to hammer, where to pull, everything like that. To get it, just click right here, fill a format on that page, and I'll send it straight to you 100% free. I'd love to see you actually using what you've learned to play some real songs, so I'll see you in that PDF.